live stream now, so a few seconds. Live stream now, so a few seconds.
Liz is saying she can't talk or hear.
It's live. You guys can go ahead and start. It's live now.
Okay, we're good to start. Giovanni?
Yes.
We're okay to start? Okay, well, good evening then. I'll say we can call the meeting to order. I have an official time of 5:35 p.m. on Wednesday, April 29th, 2020. So welcome to board members, administration, and anybody watching via YouTube Zoom. This is, I guess, our new normal. So thanks for everybody putting together. I do want to take a moment to give a special thank you to Giovanni, Trustee Steve, Mr. Blocker for the work they've done in coordinating this to get us on here. Additionally, Chris with the financials, preparing everything so that we have packets of information to send out to the community or to the residents and for the board to review. With that being said, I do want to go into, we'll start the agenda with the Pledge of Allegiance still and then a prayer, and then we'll go into our old business. So if we got, I guess I'll stand for Pledge of Allegiance. All right, pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. And I'll lead us with the brief prayer. Heavenly Father, we want to thank you once again just for keeping us safe and seeing us through these difficult times. We ask that you oversee this meeting, the village's finances, and anybody within the area or within the village, that they be healthy, safe, and beneficial moving forward. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so before going into old business, I just kind of want to walk through what may be some subtle differences with doing it in this format, or the differences as I see it. There is a slight delay as we communicate, so we want to be mindful of that so that we're not over talking because of the delay. So we pause, so maybe want to look for a little bit more of a pause before jumping in, and also for those when somebody else does start talking, we could be more mindful to not over talk one another. We want to go through the agenda as normal, where with the Finance Committee making comments, of course. We may have some questions for Chris or for Liz and Sonia throughout the process. So feel free to ask those questions or direct them at the appropriate party. Anybody not Finance Committee, we ask that they refrain from comments until the conclusion, when we will leave it open for any elected officials if they have comments, but we want to make sure we keep the same order so that way things don't spiral all over. It'll be a little bit more difficult with several people talking at the same time, and we want to make sure everybody's heard. Lastly, and most importantly, for any residents streaming live or watching this via the live, there is a chat function on the YouTube that is being monitored once again by Giovanni for any questions that may come through. So as we reach the citizens address portion, those questions will be read to the Finance Committee so that we may answer them. Oh, that's not what that one is. And if there are questions in there, we'll do our best to answer them or direct them to the appropriate party to answer. Any comments, of course, there are comments. The comments are, people are free to make their comments and leave them on the YouTube page. But what the board will be looking for specifically in citizens address are any questions that are being asked to answer. I will likely repeat that a couple of times throughout the duration of this meeting, just to make sure that anybody who picks up or joins late still understands that their feedback is appreciated and sought. So if I repeat it, it's may sound like a broken record, but we want to continue. So having said that, we're going to start off with old business, which is our monthly financial report. It's the same report that we review each month. It was included with the email out for the agenda. So I'll ask well, I didn't do a roll call, so I'll do a quick roll call for the Finance Committee. So I'm going to say Trustee Steve,
Present.
Trustee Brown,
Present.
and Trustee House is present as well. For the trustees, do you guys have a copy of the monthly financials?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Okay. So similar to any other month, what we do is we go through, we started with doing the general fund and the water fund. We're going to, and within the previous couple of months, we've also been monitoring the Melanie Fitness Center Fund more closely, just so we can make some decisions as we move forward on what the best way to enhance the Melanie Fitness Center is and how we want to proceed with Melanie Fitness in its totality. Hey, Trustee Holmes, how are you, sir?
Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm gonna back up just a little bit, just to recap. We're going through the agenda, so we're gonna have the Finance Committee. The Finance Committee will be making the comments on the agenda and agenda items. I've asked for, all questions will be directed to the administration when we get to those parts. I've asked for elected officials that we hold comments until the end of the agenda, and then there will be time for any other elected official to comment or ask questions. And then we're gonna open up for citizens address, which will be read through the live streaming and the comments made on the YouTube channel. All right, so having said that, we're going back into our financials. If you have printed up a copy of your monthly financials for the general fund, then you'll be looking at page 11. If you're looking at it from your computer, it's gonna be on page 14 for our general fund. And what that will show us is for the month of March, where am I at? We had, I'm just looking at the line that says excess or deficiency of revenues over and under expenses, meaning have we made more money or lost money in the month? So for the month of March, we had a revenue increase of $2,739,648.24 for the month of March, largely resulting from the first installment of property taxes that we started to recognize coming in. So as you'll see, for the fiscal year to date, through the end of March, the village had a operating surplus of $1,199,248.
You said it's on page 14?
It's on page 14 if you're looking at it from a computer or from your tablet.
Well, page 11 if you printed it out.
And 11 if you print it out. You want me to pause right there for a moment so you're with me?
I got it.
Okay. So overall, the general fund appears that we're producing pretty close to what we've projected. First and second installment of property taxes, we always get that big bump, but we have to be mindful that we're going to live on that for 4 to 5 months to the best of our ability. And then, so there will be some decreases come April, bigger decreases May, bigger decreases in June. So while we see a surplus, that doesn't mean that we're flushed with cash. It means that we have money in that we can continue to manage. Pause for a moment. Trustee Brown, you're still with me?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So any questions on the general fund? If none, we're going to go to the water fund, which if you've printed it out would be page 15. If you're looking from a computer, it'll be page 18. And where am I looking at? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at page 17. That's where I want to go to. So at the very bottom, so it will be page 14 on the water fund and page 17 on the computer. And we're looking at the line that says operating income or loss. For the month of March in the water fund, there was an operating loss of $212,314. but for the fiscal year to date, an operating surplus of $804,230.
And repeat that again. What page on the printout?
On the
Page is that?
printout, page 14,
14. Okay. That's it. I got it.
okay. I'm going to pause here a little bit. The water fund is one that likely for the upcoming months, we're going to see more losses increasing as the moratorium has been done on the water to be helpful to the residents and make sure that everybody is safe during this time period. But that will impact this page. So as we look at the months coming on the water fund, we can likely expect to see less revenue coming in, but there still is going to be an expense. So we're going to talk a little bit more as we get into new business on some of the changes that the administration, Administrator Scott, and Mayor have done to keep this at a minimal. We'll make sure that the board as well as the community knows why some things are done and how we can make comments on that.
Trustee, one item I would like to note on the financials on this page, it will look like you're actually, because we're just recording what's being billed, not what's being collected. So you may see less billing because less people are getting actual readings, but it doesn't take the full impact of the fact of no collections or the decrease in collections. So it may look a little better on the financials than it actually is because we're billing gross, not what we're collecting.
Okay. Thank you for making that point. The board, are we all together on that one? Okay, I'm going to summarize just for my clarity. So what we're seeing is what we build, but not cash flow or money that we actually have in the bank.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks for that comment, Chris. And if no questions on that, we'll move to the Melanie Fitness Center, which will be page 19 for printed up documents, page 22 if you're looking at it on a computer. So for the Melanie Fitness Center, this one, I'm going to ask Chris to expound on my explanation here. So one area we want to look at the revenues for the month, $15,000. So I think that's another good month or a month superior to what we've seen in the past. As we have been tracking this more, the goal that was set was 15,000 in revenue, and that had been accomplished. So I want to give kudos for the continued work on that and for setting the target that's been met. In terms of the expenses and monthly revenue, there is a one-time adjustment that's been made. I'll call it an adjustment. Chris will correct me in a moment if I'm speaking. That of $23,000 that has been removed from the expenses as a result of capitalizing the repairs to the Melanie Fitness Center pool, which means that back when the pool was being fixed, we saw $23,000 worth of expenses in that month, and those expenses can be moved to our balance sheet as we're going to depreciate them over time. So we saw 23,000 of expenses back around August and September, and this now is the correction. The reason I'm highlighting that is when you look at the bottom line expenses for the Melanie, it looks like we actually had a surplus of expenses, which we know is not possible. So when we look at our monthly revenue for the Melanie Fitness, it shows a surplus of $19,000 for the month. We want to be mindful that 23,000 of that is an adjustment. So overall, if we took the 23,000 out, we would be looking at a $4,000 deficit for the month, which by comparison to previous months, a $4,000 loss in the Melanie Fitness Center, I would still say is a success or shows much sign of progress. But I want to make sure that I'm explaining how it is and in a way that hopefully everybody gets it. And I will say that for the month of March, it appears that the targeted goals had been accomplished and on the expense side even exceeded. But I'm going to pause, see if there's any questions on this report. And then I know Trustee Steve, you've worked hard with them. So maybe if you may have some comments that you want to mention as well, please do.
No, I don't have no comments. I looked at this when I printed it up, but I don't have no comments. A lot of stuff has changed with the COVID-19, but that was the month of March, but that quickly as that came, it's over with. So yeah, keep moving.
Mm-hmm. Trustee Brown?
No comments. Thank you.
Okay. Chris, how am I explaining?
Very good. 100% correct. The only thing I would add is it's been very good for the last 3 months. Melanie has had over 10,000 each month in membership revenue. So Melanie seems to be doing a lot better.
Good.
Good deal. Thank you for that addition. But so with that, if there's no questions, the other funds are included in the financials. I think those are the three that we want to highlight the most. So those are the ones that we talked through. I'm going to move on our agenda then. Points 2 and 3, I'm going to combine together because I am going to ask Chris some questions, but I'm going to at least make the introduction on here. Our bond payments are normally taken out as a percentage of the property tax revenue, which we did get some. So I'll ask, have we begun the process of separating that? And then separately on the water bill payments, at the mayor's direction and with the advice that we're going to be looking at some shortages in the water, there has been an outreach to the city of Chicago to let them know that we expect a decrease in water, in our water collections. And we want to make sure that we stay current with the city of Chicago or in good graces and communications. So Attorney Murphy did send over a request to the city of Chicago, notifying them that we expect to be lighter on collections and we want to make sure that we honor our arrangements. To date, I don't believe there's been a response, but we are in communication to make sure that everybody knows we are working hard to honor our debts. So having said that, I'll ask Chris, in terms of the status of our water payments to the city, if we've made them, and if not, if they've given any updates on acknowledging that we've made efforts.
You guys have made your water payment. As of right now, we have had, as far as I know, Liz, you may have a better answer, but as far as I know, Chicago has not confirmed that you guys can defer your payment. So we made the payment for the bill that was due yesterday or May 1st due to the extension they're allowing. And then the next set of bills will come out in the 9th of May, which will probably be due at the end of May.
Thank you very much for that.
And I'm sitting next to the mayor here. He just informed me that that's the second request that the Attorney Murphy had made to the city of Chicago.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Yes, we made one about 5 to 6 weeks ago. And he made another 2 days ago.
Okay, he made one about 5-6 weeks ago, and he made another one 2 days ago.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you for that input. So again, the big thing being communicating with the debtors, and that's so that way everybody knows that the administration is working to be proactive in managing bills. So if there's no questions on either of those.
The bond payment?
Oh, bond payment, please.
So your current schedule, your next bond payment will be an interest payment in June. So effective your next set of your May financials, we will update the schedule of your payments to reflect the fiscal 21 bond and interest payments that are going to be in June and December of 2020.
Okay.
So currently all of the monies are still being escrowed. So all of the taxes that are collected right now for your bonds are being separately accounted into separate bank accounts. But your schedules right now will not reflect that what your next payments are because you've made the payments for this fiscal year.
Okay. Thank you for that update. Any questions from the Finance Committee?
No.
Okay, there being no questions, I'm going to go just to the status of our uncollected balance of water bills through March 30th. which it would be back in our financial packets. It's the very last page, which would either be page 36 if you have a printed up version, or page 40 if you're looking at it from computer. And the bottom right actually shows that we have $3.8 million worth of uncollected water bills. So that's money outstanding on water. A large portion of it being over 120 days. I think that this balance actually has gone down, which I would say must be a reflection of the good collection efforts that have been done leading up to the month of March. So we're still pretty consistent with where we're at, a little bit ahead. However, in the coming months, this number will likely increase as working with the residents to make sure that there's no water cutoffs during the period of this pandemic. So questions, thoughts, statements, anybody? Okay, there being none on that, we're gonna shift a little bit into the new business. I'm gonna ask our administrator some to kind of jump in on some of these points to assist, but the impact of COVID in terms of the village's financials. There are several revenue items that we've collected pretty consistent with our budgeted amounts all the way up until this point, that we're likely or have been doing projections to have a 30% loss of revenue, and those items being our sales tax, state income tax, and an expectation of a lower tax collection amount as well. So with those losses of revenues, there has to be a way to make sure that we're still solvent and are able to make bill payments. So with that, there were some things that have been done in terms of employee layoffs, as well as changes to the water department. So that's going to be points 2 and 3 that I'm going to kind of ask our administrator to kind of talk through what those actions are, things that have been done. But I do want to make sure that we lay at the forefront that we do anticipate some pretty serious losses of revenues. So some adjustments have been made. So Ms. Scott, please.
Okay, so Chris and I sat down. We got a list of all of the revenues that you just mentioned. At a 30% decrease, we're definitely looking at a deficit of close to it's definitely going to be over $1 million a month. And as a result, we had to look at we had to put some things in place to try to stop the bleeding. Some of the things that we had to do, obviously, were the layoffs. We did lay off roughly 30 employees. A lot of those employees, about, I believe, half, were comprised of the crossing guards, which obviously they're not, their school isn't in session. So we had to lay them off, and a few other part-time positions in order to just keep us solvent and above water. Also, some of the things that we're looking at, we have an early retirement. There's a fireman that is going to be early retiring, which will save us. He makes close to 6-figure salary. So he will be retiring within the next 30 days. And I've also been in discussions with a few other individuals that are close to retirement within the next year to see if they are interested in possibly retiring as well. Those salaries will help us a lot. Alone, the firefighter that's going to be retiring, his salary alone and benefits will save us approximately $3,500 each payroll. The layoffs in total are going to save us around $35,000 every 2 weeks. In addition to that, we put in a moratorium in place on purchases. So we're no longer, unless it's an emergency situation, things that need to keep the village running as far as ink, paper, things of that nature. Other than that, we put a moratorium on purchases. And we are looking at other ways to save money in any way that we can, including car washes, things of that nature.
Okay. Well, Thank you for that report. Chris, anything to add?
Morning, Chairman.
Okay, if no,
Nope, just that revenue estimates are based upon, when we originally made these estimates, it was as of April 30th, the pandemic ending and the stay-at-home order being canceled. Due to the recent notification that it's gonna go to May 31st, revenue estimates could go be even less. You guys could collect even less revenue than we anticipated. So from a 30%, it could go to a 40% or more.
okay, good deal. Hey, Mayor Rogers, welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
Great.
I want to chime in on something here. The of course, water collections, it's kind of in place where we're not going to get that much money in regards to water collections. I've seen posts on Facebook saying, "Don't pay your water bill; they can't turn your water off." So I anticipate an additional decrease in the revenues coming in for water. Secondly, the cuts that were made, the layoffs that were made, are by no means enough to try to keep us afloat here. Tomorrow, I'm talking with Public Works in regards to furlough days, which would help save money for the village and payroll. But rather than layoffs, well, I asked them for some suggestions. We didn't get any suggestions. If we did layoffs, between 5 and 10 layoffs, it would cut the manpower down. Plus, those individuals would not have an opportunity to keep their benefits. So tomorrow I'm talking with Matt, and I've already talked with our village attorney. We do not have to abide by any regulations that's in the contract to furlough people. So what we had talked about was everyone would take one furlough day. They would work 4 days, tie it into a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. For example, maybe Squad A would work Monday through Thursday. Squad B would work Tuesday through Friday. And that last day will be either tied in with a Monday and or a Friday. So it'll wind up being a 3-day work week. It would furlough them, and they can still have the opportunity of keeping their benefits. Plus, we would still have manpower. So I'm gonna talk with them about that tomorrow, and I'd like to implement it as soon as Friday. So that should, and I don't have numbers in front of me, maybe Chris or Elizabeth can chime in on this, that should also bring our savings in regards to payroll. They're anticipating now $33,000 every 2 weeks for payroll, but that's way far, that's much less than what we need to try to last a little bit longer here, if you will. I'm not sure if you know or not, but Calumet City has laid off their whole clerk department except one clerk, and they've laid off 19 public workers. There was some discussion with Matt superintendent last week. He said, why, basically like we're picking on them. It's not the fact that we're picking on them. It's the fact that as a last resort, we're not going to lay off our first responders, police, and fire. That would be a very last resort. So we would have to relay to the public that some of these services will be cut back due to the fact that the financial condition that we're in, the financial condition that we're anticipating in being in. And right now, we are actually behind some of the other towns. 3 weeks ago, when I talked about laying people off and curtail some of the expenses, we're actually behind several other towns now that have put those in place at that time. So this is an emergency crisis that we must act upon and put something solid in place so we can see the future.
And trustee and mayor, I just wanted to chime in also. I've been talking to the county, so we have several capital improvement projects, infrastructure projects going on now. Some of them did require some financial input from the village. I was requested to provide a list to them of some of the projects so that we do not have to stop some of those projects that I think are vital to the community. We are still trying to do what we can. So I am providing them with a list of our projects, and hopefully some of those will get funded. Some of those projects are a lot of money. The list I have is well over 1.5 million, so we're waiting to hear back from them regarding that as well.
The other thing is that it doesn't look like we're going to be able to move forward with replacing those meters this year. It was almost a matching. I won't say grant. It was, you can use the word grant, but it's matching funding to get those meters in place. Now, what those meters would have did for us would allowed us to bill on a monthly basis, also collect our revenues quicker, rather than actually what we're doing now when we're not getting these revenues. We're actually financing the people and carrying them. So that's kind of out the window for this year. And with, the recovery here in the anticipation of an additional advanced COVID situation approaching in the fall, this is going to be a hard situation to get through. It's going to take a long time for recovery. So we have to be smart and keep things in place, and also keep the village running with less.
Okay. So I'll ask any questions from the Finance Committee.
I'm good, Jason. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Ed's going to tap you on the shoulder if he's got questions.
Yeah. Okay, Ed.
Thank you for that feedback.
Yeah.
We're doing our social distancing. He's like all the way down in Tiffany's seat.
Okay.
Hey, quick question to Administrator Scott. I guess y'all went from the bottom up with the layoffs. As far as
we were trying to stay in line with, the AFSCME. We have to be mindful of the union contract to avoid litigation. In doing so, we have to lay off all the part-time non-union people prior to laying off AFSCME union members. So everyone that we did lay off, they were non-union members, with the exception of, I believe it was 3 clerks in the water department.
Okay.
And there was some voluntary layoffs in the water department.
And there was some voluntary layoffs in the water department.
Yes, there were some voluntary layoffs, so that did enable us to have some additional savings as well.
Okay. That's it. What number are we on right now, Jason?
We're on new business. We just did 2 and 3 kind of combined together. I mean, maybe I may ask Administrator Scott if you want to expound any on the impact of the water moratorium, or do you feel that we've covered it thoroughly?
So I just think at some point, we are going to have to take a hard look at the water shutoffs. We are in discussions. The mayor has been talking with me as far as putting something in place when we do start doing water shutoffs. Prior to that, we will give people time to come in to make payment arrangements, and we're going to work with everyone to ensure that that if they do need a payment arrangement, we're not trying to leave anyone without any water. We understand the situation and the pandemic that we're dealing with. So we will give time, and people who have, had payment arrangements in the past, we are going to continue to look at that. And all of these things, keep in mind, it does affect us going for the loan for the IEPA. They look at the amount of money and the amount of revenue that we're bringing in. So it is vital that we do collect water. I mean, we still have to function, but that's about it. And we'll have to, readjust, because next year we will be trying to get the water meter loan again.
I would suggest, I know you're right, it's eventually you got to look at it again, but we have to do something, even if we did like mandatory. And I hate to use the word mandatory, but everybody is qualified or able or qualifies for a payment arrangement, no matter what's going on. Everybody qualifies for a payment raise because people are struggling. People are not working. You see, I think the number was 22 or 24 million people filed for unemployment. So people are really struggling right now. So we have to be mindful of that, and we just have to work it out. And I know eventually, I know the Administrator Scott and the mayor have been looking at different ways to help people pay their bills. So it's going to be a way to really help people. And we don't want to put nobody in a bad situation. I don't want it to come across as if we're being heartless, because that's sometimes what will be said if you cut somebody's water off. But we don't want to come across as heartless. We want to help out everybody. But at the same time, we want to be able to maintain the income and the revenue that we have coming in, because it's still water being used and you still have to pay it. You know what I mean? You just have to work it out with everybody so they can make an arrangement and make sure they pay the bill and don't put a hardship on nobody.
Thank you for that input. So I'm going to add a couple of things to what Trustee Steve said, and also got another note. Well, I got a message from one of our regular residents that follows the state budget, Mr. Burris, who works for one of the state senators, mentioning that the state is also expecting a $7 billion shortfall, and they're going to be revising their budget. So this is going to be affecting statewide as well as municipalities. One area, and there are some things that I know there was the government stimulus that has offered more relief for business owners. And in many cases, the relief that's being offered will not impact municipalities the way that it's affecting business owners in terms of the ability to get the payroll protection programs, the SBA loans. Those are more geared towards business owners and not geared towards municipalities. So I will say that as a village, I'm sure that every viable option to get relief so that it does not fall on the residents has been sought and will continue to be sought. But the reality is we do have to plan for shortcomings. So with that being said, I think we mentioned before the outreach that's been made by the administration to the city of Chicago wouldn't relate as it relates to our bills, but we also would have the same hope that our residents, that if they're unable to make it, the village would be willing to work with anybody. However, we do need the shared responsibility of the outreach from the residents and saying that this is their situation and how can they be assisted. We'll pause for one moment. Am I gonna? All right, thought I lost Trustee Steve for a second there. But with that being said, there's no other comments on that. We're gonna go to our final agenda topic, which is going to be the annual budget for fiscal year 2021. I just put this on here because our hope or anticipation was that we would have a budget in place this year by the close of the fiscal year. We were, I know Chris and was working with everybody to be able to put that in place and have us on time for the first time in some years. So I didn't want that work to go unnoticed. Given the drastic changes in projections and numbers, that work is still being done. So I want to make sure that we're all mindful that we are aware this fiscal year will be closing tomorrow. Likely, it seems like on a pretty good note financially, but the harder days are ahead of us. And we will continue to monitor that and work with the departments. But every department and everybody here is going to have to make some tough choices. I will say or ask from the administrator, I know the mayor mentioned some furlough days and things, and I will volunteer, and I'll probably will ask the other board members as well, that any changes that impact every employee or every resident, that a calculation be done for the elected officials, and I will take the same cuts or adjustments that any employees have to take. So I won't put that out there for anybody else to comment on, but I would ask that as a board, we do that. Trustee Steve, was there a comment?
Also, I mean, I think Administrator Scott, if you can hit on the Melanie Fitness, because we did some layoffs over there too as well. Only person left at Melanie Fitness is the guy that monitors and upkeeps the pool. In one part, very extreme.
So what we did was everybody that was at Melanie Fitness, since Melanie Fitness is closed and we are running on only essential employees, we are going to have the gentleman who has to maintain the pool. He will be there, and we also will have someone who is going to be going in just periodically, just to make sure everything's okay, to check messages, and things like that. But other than that, there's nobody at Melanie Fitness at this time.
Check the premises.
Okay. So with that, there's no other questions. We've reached the conclusion of the full agenda. So I'm going to make I want to do two things from there. One, I want to open it up for, I think we have Trustee Holmes and Trustee Henyard if they have any comments as board members. Residents that may be watching via live stream, I'll ask that again, or I'll bring back to any questions or comments. Please feed them into the live chat. Those are being monitored by Giovanni, and as those questions come in at the conclusion of any statements, we will do our best to answer any questions. I think Trustee Steve, I'm going to ask, because I see you have a question, yeah, and then I'll go.
Question for either Chris or Administrator Scott. What is the projected amount? I know you said 30% up to 40%, but what does that relate to in numbers monthly?
I got that one.
Yeah, what does that look like monthly? What's going to be the monthly revenue loss?
So what I believe is Chris's analysis did our revenue from June of 2019 and took those figures and did a 30% reduction on the revenue. And that reduction came to a decrease in revenue of $924,000.
$924,000 a month?
That's just for the month of June. So yes, that would be per month. If we took that number and moved that going forward, it would be $924,000 of reduced revenue.
And it can increase. I mean,
depending on the month, correct?
I do want to add one caveat. Property taxes, you get your majority in basically 2 months out of the 2 or 3 months out of the year for that. So I use July's property tax collections for my projection. So in other months where you guys don't have real estate taxes come in, your amount of loss will be less than what you currently have showing.
Mm-hmm.
So if, let's say, we're in September or November when you guys don't have any real estate taxes, your loss won't be as high, but that's because you guys don't have any money originally coming in at all. If that makes sense.
It does.
That answer the question, Trustee Steve?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'll open up any other comments from the group or any questions or comments before going to citizens address. Going once, twice.
This Trustee Henyard, I got some questions.
You just wanted to wait until I got to go on the third time before you jumped in.
You know it. How
Okay.
y'all doing? And just FYI, I don't know, my camera does not work, just so y'all know. My question is either for Chris or yourself. What is the status of the RFP for the forensic audit? Stop.
At this time, the last that I've inquired about it, now I'll probably say that that's me. The last I've inquired, that it was being put together, but I think with this, it kind of dwindled. So that's something that I'll have to follow with Chris on, and I'll do that by Friday. And Chris, if you want to give an update and say if I missed something beyond that.
No, we're working on it, but we've transitioned to more managing your guys' cash because we foresee cash is going to get very tight in the next couple of months. So we started looking at where you guys are going to get into position of where you're going to need cash flow. You're going to have a cash flow problem. So we transitioned from working on the RFP to reviewing where you guys are going to stand financially and cash wise. Once this pandemic hopefully ends at the end of May, we're going to have to see where you guys are going to stand cash flow wise, because cash flow is going to get very, very hard.
So what I'll say is I'll talk with Chris Friday and I will provide an update on that in the finance report on Monday.
Okay, because I really do not want that to fall between the cracks. I really want to see that executed. My next question is for the mayor. Mayor, I was trying to understand, how did you choose the layoffs? And then also, do you see more coming, which I know you stated you see Public Works and you're speaking with them, but do you see any more administrative people being laid off?
Okay. Let's see, is that one? Administrator Scott, are you?
Is the mayor available or no?
Or is mayor?
There could be a possibility of more administrative people being laid off. I did not totally choose the people that were initially laid off. That was done basically between Janice and Elizabeth. I'm not sure if Chris has some input, but it's nowhere where we need to be. Elizabeth, the administrator, said that that the layoffs that had taken place right now equates to about $33,000 per payroll. If you just heard what the finance chair, Jason House, said, that we're looking at over $900,000 on a monthly basis. That $33,000 per payroll, 2 payrolls at $66,000, that doesn't touch anywhere or gives us any type of relief in regards to where we're going to be in a negative going forward. And just like Chris said, we are going to be in a tight crunch in regards to money. I would suggest at this time that we do not go forward with the cost of a forensic audit because we just can't afford it. So there are going to be some additional layoffs. And looking at some of the other communities that have really did some, in some places 50% in or more with layoffs. So we're going to be trying to operate this village with a skeleton crew and give as much services as we can with the people that we have.
Well, Mayor, you really against that forensic audit, boy.
It's not the fact of being a forensic
But
audit.
we did, but hold on, let me
It's
get
not the fact of being against a forensic audit. Do you realize what a forensic audit costs?
Mayor, we haven't got to that point. That's why we was doing an RFP to get cost analysis. We haven't got that far. It's like we keep saying do it, but then don't do it when the person you say we don't have the money or something comes up. I think we still should do what we was doing since we started that, and we did vote for it. So I'm still looking from Chris.
Well, so
you can look all you want, trustee, but in fact, we're going to be at bare bones in spending. And as far as I can see, I don't think a forensic audit is going to turn up anything more than what our other audits have turned up. And the cost of a forensic audit is so outstanding, it shouldn't be a priority now. We're going to be so close to bankruptcy that it's going to be close to a miracle for us not to go there. We have to continue to have services here. We have to make sure that we can pay our police officers and our fire department. And then we're going to have to maybe even look there as we go down the line. And the recovery for this is not going to be 4 to 6 months. This recovery may be 2 to 3 years. And you know, God forbid there's a second outbreak of COVID that happens this fall. And then we going to have to deal with that. So these waters that we get ready to chart are these waters that we get ready to be in are uncharted. And we're going to have to play this whole thing by ear.
Okay. So, Mayor, if I may interject as well. All right, trustee, I know that was your question. I think the question we want to continue with answering the question. But was your question answered?
Basically, you stated that you will have an answer or report.
I'll have an update during the finance report on Monday.
Okay, because I still wanted to go out and get prices. He constantly saying that it's going to be expensive, but we don't even have a price from anyone to say it's going to be expensive. My next question was for the mayor. The last one for him was, did anyone in his department get laid off, or did anybody take pay cuts as it related to his administration?
I don't have an administration.
Liz, can you address that, Liz?
So I'm not sure, trustee, who you're referring to, but when I spoke with the mayor, we did discuss all employees possibly taking furlough days as well. So that is something that we are definitely in discussions with.
Okay, I guess his administration would be, wouldn't it be yourself? Would it not be assistant you guys have? I don't know what the communication person does. His administration, under the administration report for the mayor. So I was
Okay,
asking,
so we are looking, trustee, at doing furlough days for everyone, myself included. Everybody in the village, as far as I know. That's what we're looking into next.
okay, my next question is the water shutoffs. Someone stated that you guys gave something out. You can correct me if it's not right. I don't know. For May 1st, that you guys was going to resume shutoff for water. Is that true or no?
That is absolutely not true.
Okay, so I did hear you say that you guys are looking to start back up on water shutoffs. What date are you trying to do that on?
So it's all dependent on the situation with the pandemic. As long as we have the stay in place, the stay in shelter order, we will not be cutting water off. Like, you know, we had said before, we're not trying to put the residents in a bind, and we do understand the situation. So as long as we're in the stay in place order, we will not be shutting water off.
Okay, so you won't be cutting water off until May 30th.
As of now, I believe the stay in place order is through June 1st, Mayor,
No.
or in the middle of May. When is that?
It's May
No.
30th. Stay in order is May 30th. Governor orders.
May 30th.
We're going to monitor what the state does. We're going to monitor what other communities do. We're going to monitor what other utility companies do and evaluate it at that point. I'm not going to say, and I don't think anyone should say on what given date that we're going to start cutting water off, that we won't cut water off. But we're going to monitor the situation.
Okay, well, number one, you and Ed not 6 feet apart, social distancing. That's number one. Number two, I don't think we should not do what the governor stated. If he say May 30th, it's May 30th. We make rules, we make laws, we govern the town. So with that being said, we should follow the higher ups, which is stay in place. Quit telling people to come out and get free pizza and free stuff like that, because that's non-essential, meaning you should not be doing that. Should be at a grocery store, then back home. So with that being said, I don't want to hear nobody call me about you shut their water off. So can you please stick to that?
Let me tell you something, trustee. You don't want people to come out and get free pizza and food, but you got no problem with them going to the pantry to go get it, right? We're gonna
two different things. You want me to comment? That's two different things. A slice of pizza and a whole meal to feed their families. Two different things, Mayor.
It has no bearing on it.
Yes, it does.
It is food. It is food.
You encourage 1,600 people to come out and get free food, and I didn't think that was right when the governor said shelter in place. Our COVID cases in Dolton is ridiculous. People are dying left and right, Mayor. You should not be a person to come outside.
Food pantry lines? Have you looked at the food pantry line?
Mayor.
How did they get there?
You have to lead. That was not a good example of leadership.
I'm not gonna go back and forth with you, trustee.
Mayor, okay. That wasn't. That's what I'm saying. Well, let's get back to the water. Let's get back to the water bit.
You're entitled to your
That's
opinion.
what I'm concerned with.
I'm done with the water. I've answered that. We're gonna monitor what the state does and what the governor says, and I'm done with it.
Okay, well, Mayor, just make sure you consult with your board and make sure you don't put no law in place saying you're gonna turn off anybody's water.
Hey, have you ever heard of executive order?
Mayor, I'm telling you right now, don't do that. Their water bill is not supposed to be shut off until May 30th.
Don't threaten me, trustee.
I'm not threatening you. I'm telling you, don't cross the line as it relates to the laws.
Okay. Trustee, was at the end of the statement or question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, with that, Trustee Holmes, I wasn't sure if you had any questions or comments. I think he stepped away, but if so that's going to conclude the agenda items. I will ask, I know we've had Giovanni. I'll say thank you very much for monitoring the questions that come in through Facebook Live. If you can, please chime in just with any questions that you've noticed on the live stream video. I will say prior to that, the questions that have been asked on there, We're gonna do as many. Well, we'll do every question that we've seen in there. Any comments that anybody may have made, if they want a response, it would have to be in the form of a question. So just as an example, if the comment is, "I don't like my home next door," that's a comment and that's not a question. Just to simplify it, versus somebody asking what's going to be the status of water turn on and turn off, when will it resume? That would be more of a question we'll work to answer. So just adding that clarity in there. Giovanni, I'll ask, can you read off any questions that may have come in through the live stream?
Okay, sure. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, there was a question that was asked with regard to the $10,000 membership revenue with Melanie Fitness. The question is that still a loss?
So the Melanie Fitness Center for the month of March had a $15,000 revenue. For the month, there was an operating loss of about $4,000. So yes, that was a loss. The loss was far less than previous months, but there was a loss that would be approximately $4,000.
Okay. There was another question. Let me get it here. It says, will the water be shut off after May 15th?
I'm going to, Administrator Scott, please correct me if I'm wrong here. There will not be any water shutoffs at this time through the stay-at-home order. And once the stay-at-home order is lifted, there will be a reevaluation of when water will be shut off.
Yes, that is what was being discussed.
Yeah.
All right. There's another question that says, prior to the pandemic, I had not been late on my water bill nor my taxes, and it's been 3 years since I filed and asked someone to repair my sidewalk. Can someone please explain why?
So the question is, I would say for that one, that's Administrator Scott, would you be okay if that person were to email you with their information so we can
Absolutely, because that's an individual, situation. So absolutely, they can email me or they can also call me.
Okay.
Can you please provide?
I go in the office. Yes, it's E for Elizabeth, SCOTT at vodalton.org. And if you have individual situations like that, feel free to contact me with any issues pertaining to that, or payment arrangements. You can also reach out to the Water Department, to Sonia London or Janice Johnson.
Okay, thank you. There's another question that asks, the question is, why did they not see any trustees take a pay cut?
You say why did?
Yeah, they're saying, why haven't I seen any trustees take a pay cut?
Oh, well, I'll speak for myself. At this time, and I think I mentioned it through the meeting. These adjustments right now have been layoffs, so there's been no pay cuts. There's only the recommendations that have been coming. We kind of followed. We're cutting anything that is deemed, I don't want to say non-essential because everything is important, but the less essential staff and consistent with the contract. I did mention in our live stream that any impacts to employees as it relates to pay cuts, I am willing to take myself. So I'm requesting that for any other trustee or board member. I don't know that question's even been posed, so that everybody can individually respond as they see fit. But for me, I'm willing to take any adjustments that are made to the employees.
I'm willing as well. Also, especially when you hear that big number of $924,000 a month, that's a conservative number. So I think everybody has to look at taking some type of cut and making some sacrifices, so the village can still stay solvent and not completely fall financially.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the next question says, it says that were the people at Melanie Fitness laid off, and this individual understands that the $23,000 is for the pool expenses. but even with 10,000 in membership monthly, what is the monthly salary there?
Yes, the people were laid off.
I don't think you can go into any one individual salary. Correct, Jason?
Well,
Or
I
you
didn't
just
understand the
about
second
salary
part of the
as a
question.
whole?
No, we
Is-
definitely would not go talk about individual salaries. If they're saying the overall payroll
I said as
uh,
a whole.
as a whole, there's one employee at the time remaining on the Melanie Fitness Center as it relates to that. So that the salaries will be drastically reduced.
Okay. The next question is, what arrangements have been made to make the payment to the city of Chicago?
So our previous arrangement was that we have to make a one-time payment, generally around the second installment of our property taxes. And that one-time payment, and we do that once per year for the next 8 years. Assuming we meet that monthly payment, then they will forgive $4 million of our back bill that is owed. Separate from that, we do have ongoing monthly bills with the city of Chicago, which Chris noted has been paid. So we are current with our bills to the city of Chicago. And next month, or the next bill, if I heard correctly, will be due approximately May 19th.
And then from my understanding, Attorney Murphy reached out to the city of Chicago twice already to see if they can have some type of grace period or extension for us with this COVID-19 going on now.
Okay. And the next question to kind of follow up on the question about Melanie Fitness, they want to know, what is the monthly payroll?
Prior to the layoffs, it was estimated between $10,000 to $13,000 per month.
Okay. The next question is, how does the forensic audit dwindle?
I'm going to answer that to the best of my ability. I don't know. I'm struggling with dwindle. But what I will say is that was an initiative that was brought forth, but the board agreed to move forward with a RFP to try to find out how much it would cost. That was not a commitment to pay, because there could be a high cost to doing the audit. For the RFP, we began forming the document to send out 4 quotes. And with this pandemic coming in, it became a lower priority item, and it's something that I have to follow up on. So I will do that and give a report on Monday.
Okay, the next question is, who made the decision not to proceed with the forensic audit?
There was no decision to not proceed with it. So I think kind of mentioned that it did become a lower priority, and if anybody would say that, for me, it became a lower priority follow-up item. So if there's somebody that has to wear that one, that would be me, but I will pick it back up and make an update on Monday.
Okay, and this might be related. It says, how does the mayor or Chris determine whether a forensic audit should or should not be done because the board approved the RFP?
That question is an incorrect statement, because the mayor or Chris would not independently make that decision. So that statement is incorrect.
Okay. Give me a second. I'm looking for any more questions. The question is concerning the same topic. So considering the RFP, that is, who made it a lower priority regarding the forensic audit?
Well, I can only speak for myself. So if anybody else wants to chime in, they can feel free to do so. For me, I did some work. I've done some work with Chris, with the administrator, and in looking at the finances, as we have come to more of a money crunch, it did not register as highly as looking at projected revenues and other items. So that's where it became a lower item for myself. For anybody else, because it was there. You know, there are 6 of us on. There are 6 trustees on the board. There's the mayor. There's the clerk. So everybody can, in their own way, take different initiatives or have their own different initiatives. So I don't want to speak for anybody on where it is on their list of urgencies, but that's my response to how it became a lower issue for myself.
Okay, and there's another question. It says, the village attorney explained that elected officials cannot take pay cuts by law while in office. So I guess they're trying to clarify if this is accurate or not.
That is accurate. A village official cannot vote on their own salary. So even if we voted to do an increase or decrease, the actual change would not be implemented until the following election cycle. So once the election is completed and the newly sworn in elected officials are in place, that's when the change will become effective. My volunteering for the amounts would mean that I would still receive the paycheck, and then I would write a check back to the village of Dolton as a donation to represent whatever percentage is necessary to be given back.
And let's see, I don't think we have any other questions. I'm just going to double check.
There's one more. It says, are they checking the Dropbox for water bill payments daily?
Right. I thought that would be something maybe more specific, because I know Liz referenced that there were questions about, you know, some of the billing or things like that. But if someone wants to answer that, you guys can.
Oh,
Yes.
You gotta hit Sonia. You gotta hit
Sonia. Hi, Sonia. You're on mute.
You gotta turn your mic on. You gotta turn your.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the answer to that is yes. The water Dropbox payments is checked daily, Monday through Friday.
Okay. There's another question. They would like to hear from other city trustees and have them share their thoughts regarding the forensic audit, answering the question, should we proceed with an audit?
You kind of came through a little bit broken up. I didn't hear. Can you repeat that for me, please?
Okay, sure. A resident would like to hear each trustee share their thoughts on the forensic audit, answering the question, should we proceed with an RFP?
Excuse me, wasn't that voted on in the previous board meeting? That we move forward with a forensic audit?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
RFP.
That's the answer there.
Sorry, the RFP. Sorry.
Okay, I'm checking to see if there's any more questions here that we have. Look like Jason, you could check the chat to see if I missed any really quick.
Okay. I'm trying to look through there right now.
In the Zoom.
I am.
No, there's nothing in the Zoom.
Excuse me, I have one. Is Sonia still on?
I am.
I have one question. As far as the Dropbox goes, are there any payments in the Dropbox? Are people still continue to pay their water bill who can pay their water bill, or no?
Yes, absolutely. The Dropbox is 24 hours. People are actually using the Dropbox. The drop-up window is open from 10 to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday as well.
Okay.
We also have online pay. So if they have a credit card, they can pay online. And then we also still take payments at the currency exchange behind the water department. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So I think we have reached the conclusion here. So I want to thank everybody for their time. And if there's no further questions, I'm going to say that we will adjourn this meeting. Thanks for the creativity and everybody's participation. We're done at 6:44 p.m.
Thank
Also,
you.
The regular rest of the board members, we are going to do a test tomorrow. You all got your email. We're going to do a test tomorrow before the Zoom call to make sure everybody can log on, and we're going to do it tomorrow for the Monday's board meeting. So check your emails. We're going to test it to make sure everybody. No, I know Trustee didn't talk to her today, just helping everybody out to make sure everybody can log on. So look for, we're going to do a test tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and Giovanni already sent out the link.
Okay, so my camera gonna work tomorrow?
It should work. You got an iPad, Trustee Henry?
No, I'm using my iPhone.
Okay. Just call me. I can walk you through it.
Okay, my last question is why did y'all not have this prior to? We had 3 meetings passed and we didn't even have a Zoom board meeting. And I've been sending emails. No one has been responding to have a meeting. Do you have an answer for that? That's for Ed, because I guess you IT. So I was just wondering why we didn't have a Zoom meeting.
No, I'm not. It's not up to me or individual trustee to cancel a board meeting, anything like that. That's not up to. That's not.
Oh, it's not you. So it's the mayor. Okay.
I just facilitate.
Yep, got it. The mayor.
Okay, so with that being said, I want to say everybody stay safe.
You too, and
Thank
good
you
night.
for the contribution, and I'm going to re-adjourn this one. I'm going to be a pastor with 3 closing soon. I'm going to re-adjourn this meeting at 6:45 p.m. Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She just.